I think I had this book, the beginnings of this book, sort of at the beginnings of my life. I lived in Hong Kong, which was this absolutely stunning island and a place so full of extremes. And I think during that period I saw so many changes, and it took time for it to all filter. But I found, and I was writing in different ways through my life, but later on, after my family was growing up, it really became very, very insistent. That I started to hear the voice of this book, and I didn't really have any choice in the matter. I had to write it. Well, it's the story of Alice Safford, the third daughter of a British family living in colonial Hong Kong. Her father works for the government, he's fairly high up in the government, and she's one of 4 children, and really a very troubled child. She's not a happy child. And it is, but it's about so many things. It's not just about families and a sort of a family saga. It's about Hong Kong, this absolutely magical island that I grew up on, and all the different influences that came into this island. It's about Chinese culture and these wonderful people, wonderfully hospitable people the Chinese were. And it's also got another dimension to it, which is the ghosts, if you like. Now, I don't see any, for me, there's no bridge to ghosts or another world. I see it all very much as part of the world we live in. But the ghosts themselves, they were not all, I started with one ghost. You know, I had at the very beginning of the book, but I'm afraid the other ghosts just muscled in later on, and, you know, they just came, and that was that. Well, the history of Hong Kong is an absolutely fascinating one, and I feel so privileged to have lived through what was an incredibly turbulent period, but at the end of it, I think amazing and good things came out of it. But at the time when I lived in Hong Kong, there's no point pretending there was a big divide between the white colonials and the Chinese. And, you know, generally speaking, the white colonials were very well off, lived on the Peak in fairly luxurious accommodation, and the Chinese, the mass populace of Hong Kong, had a very, very hard time indeed. And it was about that time that Mao Zedong was creating a lot of unrest within China. But there were so many things. I mean, you know, there was the geography of the place as well, this wonderful subtropical climate and typhoons and landslides. And I remember in the field of the flat where we lived, a helicopter landing. We were all watching this helicopter come down with provisions because the Peak was cut off and we had no food. And then, of course, typhoons, which came regularly, and again there was that divide. For me, it was come home from school, it was very exciting, you boarded up your windows and, you know, you all huddled down. But for a lot of people who were living in, you know, squatters' accommodation, little shacks on the hillside, it was a terrifying time. And the farmers lost, you know, many farmers would regularly lose their livelihood. And so you had constant extremes all the time, in every possible way. Great beauty, great cruelty, great wealth, great poverty. Yeah, there were several things I felt about that period of the book. One was, very often when you do meet people or hear about people who have genuinely gone missing, it isn't like they go missing and wham, 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 this happens, that happens, that happens. It is a kind of lost period in their lives. And quite often you'll find that they've been doing relatively ordinary things. so there was that. I think the way that I chose to write about it was really with her reaching back to Hong Kong, because I feel that wherever she was, she wasn't very far away from Hong Kong. And so, rather tragically, she writes home in the hope that it will jog her life and everything will change. But it doesn't work out quite as she hoped. I think the sad thing is that the tragedy that began in her early life echoes, repeats itself. You know, it's that, you can't, you take your troubles with you, and she does. Oh, okay. I am so excited about being the launch title of this new imprint, Blue Door. For me, it's got a very strange association. I mean, Patrick is effervescent about it. Patrick Jansen-Smith, my publisher, is just bubbling over with it. And when he talks to me about the future books that are coming, I find that completely thrilling. The association it has in my mind, he asked me once what it meant to me, Blue Door, the idea of it. And I thought about it. And as a child, I used to have a book called The Blue Day. And it was a book about a doll left in the loft for 364 days of the year. But on the 365th, a bird would come to the doll and take her out, and she would swoop all the way over the world and experience untold things, magical things. Anything was possible. And that's what Blue Door means for me, that anything is possible, that when you open those pages, you're going to go on some wonderful journeys.